Welcome into SBR Madness for Saturday morning, March 23rd. Round of 32 is upon us. It's a great day to be a sports bettor. All day games for Saturday. He's Maxwell Smart. We also have Ian Cameron. Maxwell Smart 420 on Twitter. Welcome into the show. How you doing today?
Doing quite well. Quite happy about my night last night, and I'm obviously quite happy that I finally broke my losing streak on our SBR Madness plays of the day. So thank you, UCF. If I can find your home addresses, I'll send you all a special Christmas present from a special tree that is now legal in Canada.
Nice, man. And yeah, UCF was definitely the right side. Taco Fall played really well in that game last night. Really outmatched VCU all the way. Should be a fun one to watch against Duke in the round of 32. And Ian Cameron, also from north of the border, follow him on Twitter at Babano. Ian, welcome in, man.
Yeah, I mean, I was always worried hearing everybody that was on UCF yesterday. I was one of them as well. Sometimes that doesn't always work out when it seems like everybody and his brother's on the same side, but obviously that one worked out well. And apparently I'm not alone in having a good day yesterday. A lot of people that I have talked to on Twitter, and obviously here in Maxwell Smart, they're saying he had a good day. A lot of people did yesterday, but that was yesterday. Let's try to have a good Saturday.
Let's absolutely well said, and let's get right after it. At the top of the card, we got Maryland LSU 145 the total. LSU -3 here. ACC versus the SEC in round 32. Ian, we can let you start off, man. What are you seeing here with the Terps and the Tigers?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those games where Maryland comes back, beats Belmont. LSU hangs on, beats Yale. LSU, believe it or not, didn't really shoot the ball all that well against Yale. It'll say 79-74, but only 28 of 61 shooting in that basketball game. They were actually very fortunate, I thought, LSU, that Yale in the first half, they were just jacking one three after another. None of them were falling. I think if a couple of those early threes start to hit for Onye and some of those players from Yale, it could have been maybe a little bit of a different story for LSU in that game. So I think they've got to pick up their game a little bit. I think there's a coaching downgrade without Will Wade on the sideline. I've said that before. I'm not a big fan of Tony Benford. I don't think he did a particularly good job at North Texas when he coached there. I don't think he's as good schematically in X's and O's and adjustments wise and plays out of timeouts, all things like that, like Will Wade would. But LSU has the capability, I think, matchup-wise here to possibly overcome it. I mean, Bruno Fernando had a big game against Belmont, 14 points, 4 assists, 13 rebounds. But we know about LSU. They've got that interior low-post muscle to maybe neutralize him a little bit. It's going to put a lot more emphasis on Morzell and Anthony Cowan Jr. They're going to need probably a little bit more out of that backcourt here in this game. This is tough. I like Maryland and LSU. They're two teams I like. I've backed them a couple of times this season. I think it's a positive. Maryland finally got a win away from home, which has been a problem for them, beating good teams away from home. I initially was leaning LSU, but the market's getting a little high on this one for me, too high for me now that it's up to -3. The value's starting to slip here a little bit. I'd lean LSU, but at the current number, it's not going to be a play for me.
All right, and we got Max up next, and I'll tell you, Max, Tomar's saying the SEC's looked overrated so far. I think even more so, the Big Ten has looked very good so far. How are you looking to bet Maryland LSU?
Yeah, I think that Maryland definitely has a lot going for them with their front court combo of Fernando and Smith. I think that they showed their value in the game against Belmont, but they're going up against a different kind of front court, and I think that they're going to need to be able to utilize the 3-point shot more than they have been. Fact is, when they're not hitting above 30% or they're hitting close to 30%, and they're not at least making 8 a game, I have a problem with that. I think that starts with Anthony Cowan. I think that Anthony Cowan needs to really take it upon himself to be a serious scorer in this game, because he's not going to have any breaks when he's on the floor. He's either going to be matched up against Tremont or he's going to be matched up against Javante. And I think that with LSU's depth, it's going to be a real challenge. So I don't have a play on this game as of right now. I'm looking to make a play on it live.
All right, we got B. Fulton in the house, J93 as well. Chris Cargo, welcome in, guys. Stephen Dollery, please smash the like button as you're joining us if you're liking the content. We got Ian Cameron alongside Maxwell Smart and myself moving down the card here, all the NCAA games. Also a look at some of the other lesser conferences as well. lesser tournaments, the NIT and such as well. Also, guys, remember Monday night, 9 o'clock Eastern time, we do have the poker tournament, and the winner will receive 2 tickets to the Final Four, flights, hotel paid for. That's presented by Bovada and SBR Sports Picks. That's Monday night, 9 o'clock Eastern time. Check out SBR Sports Picks for more information. Let's move down the card here to the next game up, 2:40 Eastern tip here. This one can be viewed on CBS. Number 7, Wofford Terriers versus the Kentucky Wildcats. Kentucky laying 5. 140 the total. Maxwell Smart, right back at you, man. Wofford shot lights out. That guy McGee, he's a lot better shooter than I realized. That he might have next level potential for real. Going against Kentucky, we all know the top line talent Kentucky has. The ultimate equalizer being 5 points. Kentucky, would you lay 5 with the Wildcats?
Yeah, I think that I'd be probably leaning towards actually the dog in this. I think that collegiately, this Wofford team is a great collegiate team. I'm not going to go and say that Fletcher McGee is going to be able to be an NBA player. I'm still undecided on that. But I do think that against the matchups and the three-point defense of Kentucky, I think that they're going to have the advantage here today. And I think that if they're shooting the three well, they're going to be able to possibly win and beat Kentucky. This is a team that gets to the line. This is a team with Nate Hoover, Storm Murphy, the sophomore point guard. He's done an admirable job. He doesn't give up on plays. He gets back on defense. He's good in transition. I think that that's where Wofford really needs to focus on getting some extra scoring. I think that the more that they slow this game down, I think that the more that Kentucky can use their length and their athleticism to the advantage. And we have to also talk about Keldon Johnson. Keldon Johnson's coming off a 25-point game, although he did play 30 minutes, so I probably would have liked to see better production from him. But for his shot load, he did it all right. I think that Tyler Harrell has to obviously step up, and I'm waiting to see the defensive ferocity of Ashton Higgins that we just haven't seen lately. This Kentucky team just isn't as attractive without PJ Washington. The differences that PJ Washington does and makes on the court that don't make the stat sheet is what I'm missing with this Kentucky team. And as of right now, I'm on Wofford, and I'll be looking to get on Wofford on the money line.
On the Terriers, all right, taking the points for sure, and in the money line as well. Ian, what are you thinking here, Wofford versus Kentucky?
Yeah, it's a lean for Wofford for me. If I'm betting it, I'm looking at Wofford here in this game. PJ Washington absence is big because I think one of the biggest advantages and edges Kentucky would have had in a matchup like this would be the rebounding edge. Well, you're talking about PJ Washington, who's an elite rebounder for this Kentucky team. Not having him on the floor, I think, is going to hurt. It takes away a little bit that one edge that Kentucky might have had otherwise. You got this Wofford team that just runs this beautiful offense. I mean, if you saw the way they executed and the way they moved the ball and got open shots from three, not just once, not just twice, but multiple times throughout that game, that just tells you this team runs great offensive sets, know where each other are on the court at all times. As Max mentioned, Fletcher McGee had an incredible shooting performance. Nathan Hoover can shoot the ball as well. Storm Murphy, all of those guys, dangerous perimeter threats. I know Kentucky's defense certainly is capable of neutralizing that a little bit, but I think Wofford's got something really, really special here. And one other thing that concerns me about Kentucky is it's not a deep bench. This is not a deep rotation for Calipari this year. When you look at these teams now, Saturday and Sunday games, guys that are watching, very important to examine who's got a deep bench, who doesn't, because now we're talking second game in 3 days. Obviously the minutes start to add up just a little bit, short turnarounds here for all of these teams. Florida State, for example, maybe a team better equipped to handle it because they go 10 or 11 deep with their bench and with their rotation under Leonard Hamilton. Kentucky, not so much. So that's something that could hamper them a little bit. I'm looking at Wofford here, +5, +5.5. Not sure about win the game outright, but if Kentucky's sweating this game in the final minute and the final few possessions, it would not be a surprise to me.
Yeah, good breakdown, Ian. And PJ Washington, he scores a lot too. So it's not just the rebounding. You're right.
Exactly.
His presence is going to hurt Kentucky, no doubt about it. And going against Wofford, do you think McGee could play in the NBA?
He can shoot at a bench role. Yeah, potentially. That's what it would be probably if he's going to be in the NBA. You'd be looking at the guy coming off the bench, give you some instant scoring. I don't know if he's going to do all that much else for you outside of that at the professional level. But, just coming in there, a three-point shooter off the bench. Marco Bellinelli's had a great career in the NBA doing that kind of thing. So that's a potential fit maybe for a Fletcher McGee at the next level.
Yeah, sharpshooter style. Is that where you would see him, Maxwell, as far as in the NBA if he was able to make a roster?
I personally think that he can be dominant overseas, and I think that his skill set and his shot making ability, he would get the minutes in EuroLeague, and I think that would be a quite the accomplishment because that is exceptional basketball in my mind.
We got Dom the Don in the chat box saying Taco versus Zion, LOL. That's going to be a heck of a game to watch, UCF versus Duke. That will be a fun one, but that's not till tomorrow, so we'll hit that on tomorrow's show, 10 o'clock Eastern time. Right here, same place, same time. We got a 5:15 Eastern tip here. Florida versus Michigan up next. SEC versus the Big Ten. 122.5 or 123 the total now. Heavy over money here. It opened as low as 118.5. I'm seeing on SBR odds. -6.5. That's Michigan laying in this one. Little money coming in on Florida, pushing it from 7 down to 6 or 6.5. 6 popping up right now at Bet Online. We have a 6.5 at Heritage. So low scoring total. Michigan laying, a mid-sized number here, 6.5. Ian, how would you look to bet the Gators and the Wolverines?
Yeah, I don't bet against John Beilein at tournament time, and I certainly don't do it when he's facing a mediocre opponent. And I still think Florida's a mediocre opponent, even though they beat Nevada. Nevada was just not right down the stretch, didn't play their best basketball down the stretch. A team that, basically, I think the Utah State incident really threw them for a loop. That little thing that happened post game, just not the year Nevada was hoping for. I thought maybe they could come down the flip the switch now that the tournament had arrived. Because I took Nevada in that game, it didn't work out. Florida got the win. Kudos to them. They played well. They certainly had a great first half. Got a little interesting down the stretch, but Florida, solid game from them. It's going to be a much tougher challenge for them, particularly on the offensive end against this Michigan team. This defense is stifling right now. They completely just choked off anything Montana wanted to do in their tournament opener the other night. Michigan laying 6.5. It's not the best number, but I would lean to the favorite here. Michigan 6.5. Total's going up the way it has surprises me. It's up to now even 123.5 in some spots. I'm getting more and more interested with under the total in this game. I don't think Florida's going to have much success shooting the basketball offensively in this game against Michigan. So my leans here, Michigan, and also under the total. Now that the total is rising, which is a little bit surprising to me.
Yeah, it's surprising to me too, Ian. There's not going to be a whole lot of possessions. Neither team's going to look to push it. So as we get here to the mid 120s, I'm with you. I would start to look towards the under. J93, the writer, saying, always good to remind folks of the like button. I forget sometimes. Good looking, Drew. Yep. Please hit the like button whenever you guys can. That would help us out a lot. Tomar saying, I'm on Villanova, got 4. He's on Maryland and Michigan State. Good morning to you, Reddy. Couple other guys here in the chat box. Please feel free to chime in whatever you're wanting to talk about. Let us know what you're betting and why. Feel free to market it any way you'd like. We have a bunch of marketed plays in here. One of them being Jorge Don't Play. Barbecue Scandal play of the day coming back for redemption. Currently he's 2-1, and that Barbecue Scandal play of the day is on Florida +6.5 in the game we're talking about right now. So Jorge Don't Play, Barbecue Scandal play of the day on Florida +6.5. Max, are you agreeing with Jorge Don't Play on Florida +6.5?
Yeah, it's definitely a strong case for Florida. Although I will point out Nevada. What a shameful, disgusting performance. You know what? When you're down by that many points and you're just holding the ball just before the half court line like one of the Martin brothers were, are you stupid? Do you not understand that you're going to lose the game unless you speed it up and get to the bucket? They are goddamn morons. They used to think they had basketball IQ. They do not. Well, Florida had their win. They had their fun. And I think that Michigan is going to come out quite strong. And I'm looking at betting on Michigan the first half. This is a Michigan team that's 6-1 on a neutral site. They know what it means when you go to a neutral site. It means tournament time. It means championship time. This is a team that's going to shoot 37% from the three-point line. They're going to hit over 70% from the free throw line. I loved what I saw from Charles Matthews. He was 8 for 12. He had a double-double. That's the Charles Matthews that we need. That's the Charles Matthews that I think that you're going to get when you have a solid floor general like Xavier Simpson, who is going to distribute the ball and has that very ugly hook shot. How can you not want to get on Michigan? And then for Ian and I, as Canadians, how can we not want to back our Oakville, Ontario Canadian countryman, Iggy Brazdeikis? And
Yes.
I think that I'm going to be doing it. So I'm on Michigan first half.
And Ian, he brings up the Canadians. Also, want to get your guys' opinion, because that Nevada-Florida game, it was an interesting one to watch, with Florida jumping out to such a big lead, and then Nevada coming back. But at the same time, Nevada, like the NBA prospects and all, I didn't see it. Max, do you see either one of those two teams, those any NBA prospect on Nevada making an actual impact at the next level?
The only one that I can see making an impact at the next level is Trayshawn Thurman. Obviously, Caleb Martin has the offensive flair. I just don't think that he has the killer instinct. And I think that a guy like Trayshawn Thurman or a guy like Jordan Caroline, they maybe have a professional potential or good professional potential. But chances are we're going to see all four guys in the league at some point.
Yeah, Max, that's a great way to put it with the Caleb Martin kid, because watching him play, if you're the best player and the most talented offense player, you got to go get the ball, have it in your hands, and want to score. I didn't see that kind of mentality from him, really, definitely against Florida. It was almost like he was pretty timid. Ian, do you have anything on that subject?
Well, that's going to be the thing. Timid is right. Defense, let's not forget, Nevada was not a great defensive team either, and you're going to have to play a little bit if you're going to be a successful pro player at the next level. That was also an issue for them. I thought Thurman, Max made a good point about Thurman, made a very good account of himself, I think, in that game. Actually gave them some good minutes, some toughness, some rebounding as well. It's potential, but I still think Caleb Martin could be pretty good in the NBA, but there's definitely some prospects out there. I don't want to say his stock has fallen because of one NCAA tournament game, but there's definitely some prospects that are well ahead of him in the pecking order.
Yeah, I hear you for sure. We got Tomar in the chat box saying, I can't see any SEC team getting past the Elite Eight. Julian in the house saying, is Murray State the Loyola of last year? Ja Morant is a beast. Today will be a test against FSU. Absolutely. That defense is going to be an interesting one to watch against a guy that will be playing in the NBA, at least in my opinion. What up, Ron? Tomar in the house. I'd lean FSU too. Morant isn't a great shooter, and FSU has a lot of size to keep him out of the paint. That's absolutely true. Tomar coming in with great stuff in the chat box, like always, leading us into our next game, guys. 6:10 Eastern time, Murray State versus Florida State, a fascinating matchup. This is going to be a great one to watch. 148 being the total. Florida State minus 4.5. To Tomar's point, I mean, Florida State is a tough team to score on. They're long, they're lanky, they're a tough team to get close to the basket shots on. And they offensively, they're not that skilled, at least in my opinion. I don't think that they have, the top line scorers. So I'm thinking this total looks a little high, that they can keep Ja Morant at bay. And I don't see it getting up into the high 140s. But Max, what are you viewing it here, Murray State versus Florida State?
I think that some people are having a little bit of a misperception of what Ja Morant does on this Murray State Racer team. Yeah, he can take 25 shots in the game, but he doesn't have to. When you got Tevin Brown and Shaq Buchanan, you have admirable players that can support you scoring. Yesterday, he took 9 shots. He got 17 points, got to the free throw line, but he had 16 assists. So think about the point production that he's responsible for assisting and producing, along with his actual scoring production. So John Morant knows how to adjust to matchups, and I think we're going to see him do that today. We're going to see him be able to take it upon himself to score the basketball because simply people are saying that he can't. And when people have said that he can't in the media before, especially on ESPN, who was not a believer in him instantly like some others were, I wasn't either, he shuts them up. So I'm looking for Murray State to have definitely first half value, if not full game. And you have to keep in mind also that Phil Kofer, with his father passing and then also with this reoccurring foot injury, he may not play today. And I think that's an important asset that Florida State relies on. Obviously, they do have a lot of depth, and I'll be looking for my favorite Florida State player, David Nichols, to step up. But it's gonna be a back and forth battle. I think it's gonna be a rock fight all the way to the end.
Okay, and Ian, what are you viewing here? Murray State, Florida State, both side and total. What are you looking to bet, man?
This is the kind of game that I don't trust Florida State in. We saw them just barely get by Vermont. I mean, it was a struggle for them. It was a grind for them the whole way. They didn't exactly play great in that game. Leonard Hamilton sometimes bugs me with some of the stuff he does. But Florida State, on the other hand, matchup-wise, unless they stub their – I just worry this team is a mentality sometimes at tournament time stubbing their toe. But matchup-wise, it is a good matchup for Florida State. It really, really is. They've got the length. They've got the size inside, I think, to neutralize Murray State, really to keep John Morant bothered at the perimeter as well if he's going to jack up shots. It's something that Florida State has a distinct edge in, and I talked about it earlier in the Kentucky game, where they don't have the bench minutes and the deeper rotation. Florida State does. That helps when you're playing second game in 3 days. No question about that. Phil Kofer, not expected to play last I checked, but some people are now saying he is going to play. We'll have to look into that a little bit. Either way, it would certainly help. I think people are infatuated right now with Murray State. This game opened 6. It's down to 4.5, and I get it. John Morant's been awesome. He was terrific against Marquette. First of all, Marquette's did not play well down the stretch. Second of all, Marquette's a mediocre team at the defensive end of the basketball court. I think Florida State's probably a little bit better defensively, and I also think they've got better, a longer team, more size to be able to, give some trouble to John Morant and the Murray State team at the offensive end of the basketball court. So to me, I'm getting more and more interested on Florida State. If I can get 4, I'm kind of interested. I will still back Florida State if I can get a better number. The Murray State run has been great so far. I think they're going to find the matchup a little bit more difficult here today.
We got Derek in the chat box saying he likes FSU. No problem. We'll all eat together. Ian, we got some guys asking about any NHL if you got it. We also got Chris saying FSU wears down Murray State. Viper shuts for the great points to go deep in the tournament from Daryl Lyles. I think Michigan first half is a great play today. That from Viper. Michael Jordan saying Ja Rule instead of Ja Morant.
Holla. There we go. There's your Ja Rule.
Yeah, that'd be funny. Ja Rule, man. He was the only rapper I can remember really singing in rap songs, right, Ian?
Yeah, now everybody does it.
But I guess some guys asking about any NHL. Do you have any NHL for today?
Yeah, I mean we're down. We're down to the last 2 weeks of the regular. So what is this? The Ice Guys back again? NHL. It's down to the last 2 weeks of the regular season. So you got to be careful. Arizona's playing New Jersey. It's an early start game. Maybe you look at Arizona to win in regulation time or delay the puck line. Arizona's off. 3 losses in a row. They need the 2 points desperately right now. You got to take care of business against a depleted, injury-riddled Jersey team. I think Arizona either take them in regulation, which is less than -140, or the puck line -1.5 at a plus price is the way I go there. Tampa Bay, St. Louis. Tampa Bay, I'm done fading them. I thought after the President's Trophy was clinched, they'd start to ease off the gas pedal. They win back-to-back games. They will be without Yanni Gourde, but they're scoring goals in bunches. The power play's on fire, and St. Louis is scoring goals. So I think over the total in that game of 6 is worth a look. Tampa Bay and St. Louis in that game. Detroit Vegas is interesting. Maybe that game has some goals to it. Vegas offensively is on fire right now. They could probably get 5 or 6 all by themselves against Detroit. So maybe overs in the St. Louis and Vegas game, and I like Arizona in some form early game today on the ice.
All right, good stuff, Ian. Looking towards the ice. We'll also get to Max on any NIT games that he likes. And in the chat box, guys, thanks for chiming in. A lot in here. Matt Randall saying Arkansas money line. Also, Matt Randall's taint play of the day, Villanova. That's Villanova versus Purdue. Villanova catching the points there. Matt Randall's taint play of the day. Tomar in here saying Michigan is horrible rebounding. Florida should be able to keep it close with their size. I think the value is with Florida. Also catching a bunch of points. That is the barbecue scandal play of the day. The Gators plus the points. That's from Jorge. Don't play. So Tomar liking that as well. Florida's a tough team. I don't think that they have a lot of like top line talent guys, but they're a tough team. They were a lot tougher than Nevada. You could see it in the play. That is Jorge don't play on Florida plus 6.5 in the barbecue scandal play of the day. It all depends on how Michigan comes out, in my opinion. Today I'm like an LSU. What you guys think? That's from Tony Weddle. We hit the LSU game first, Tony, against Maryland. Mickey Cohen saying I'm on Maryland. Don't see them scoring easy on Michigan. That's from Don as well. But Max, let's get to some of these smaller conferences before we finish out the NCAA card. We got Lipscomb, UNC Greensboro, 156 the total. Pick'em, -1 towards UNC Greensboro. Also FIU, Texas State, lower on the card. FIU team we know is going to push it as well. What do you think in these two lesser conference games? Ian, can you hear him?
Muted.
Sorry,
Okay,
my
yeah.
bad.
No worries.
Yeah, Lipscomb just looked really good in that game against Davidson. In that second half, they just turned on something that they were able to do all throughout the conference season, and they're going to need that today. You know, they got a solid front court of Rob Marbury and Eli Pepper and Michael Buckland, and of course Garrison Matthews. But I think that this NC Greensboro team has my favorite mid-major front court player in James Dickey. He will frickin' probably punch somebody in the face today. I hope he does. It'll be really entertaining. But no, as long as he stays on the floor, he provides a leadership. He provides vocal. He provides guys being accountable. So I think that NC Greensboro at home, you want to give me plus points with them, I'm going to have to jump on them. I think that Isaiah Miller, if he's going to be taken into the bucket and not settling for jump shots on the perimeter, I think that's going to be very valuable. And of course, Francis Alonso, he's the motor and the engine to this offense. It's just about, do they start fast? Because Greensboro has had some games where they've started too slow and have been able to come back, or where they've started too fast and then haven't been able to maintain. That's my issue with them. So the way that I'm looking at this game is I'm looking at getting on Greensboro on the first half, and I'm looking at taking Greensboro full game money line. As far as the total, I'm not touching it because it's moved up 7 points.
Okay, good stuff, Max, there. On those games, we got Dom saying he likes LSU. We got Adam Beanstalk in the house. 6-way parlay. Jesus. Nova plus 5.5. Wofford plus 7.5. Kansas money line. Zags -12. Indiana money line. Lipscomb money line plus 2,400. Good luck with that, Adam. Hope it hits, man. You'll be a rich man.
Shot in the dark parlays. I know I've tried those a bunch in my life, and I don't know if I have won one of them, but I wish you luck.
Exactly. Don't recommend it. It'd be tough to be talking sports betting and say to recommend 16 parlays. Definitely would shy away from that. Michigan first half solid. Florida 214th in the nation in first half points. Michigan second in the nation in first half points allowed. Interesting. Team total there on Florida might be an under. Also under maybe in the first half. Dan Kelly in the house as well. Rule of thumb, when betting the NCAA tournament, rounds 1 and 3, bet the coach. They have prep time, rounds 2 and 4, bet the players. Absolutely. I think there's something there, Dan. It's just the turnaround time. I know Ian mentioned it with Florida State. More depth, that matters as well in the second game, meaning the round 2 and the round 4s. I think that there's something there. Ian, would you also add in what Dan Kelly's saying as far as coaching angle being less so in this round than in the past round?
That's 1,000% correct. No doubt about it. That is an excellent, excellent, excellent point right there. Great job in the chat. Coaching does not matter quite as much because you only have one day between games. There's no time to practice. There's no time to really do instructional drills, get in the classroom, so to speak, and really sit these guys down and say, this is where you went wrong. This is where you screwed up. You got to turn around in the day. You got to let them get rest. You got to allow them to, get some of their energy back, turn around the next day and play again. So there's no time for getting on the practice court. There's no time for extended length of prep and adjustments from one game to the next here. Going from Thursday to Saturday and from Friday to Sunday with these games. So you're right. Coaching in these games, the weekend games, the back half of these two games in 4 days doesn't matter as much. It's about the players executing. It's about the athletes and the overall talent coming to the forefront a lot more than it is coaching and preparedness. It matters a lot more when you've got that Sunday to Thursday or Sunday to Friday turnaround like you're going to see coming up in the Sweet 16 prior to that round next week. But going from these Thursday to Saturday, Friday to Sunday games, that's a great point in the chat. 100% true. It's more about the players getting it done than the X's and O's adjustments that coaching makes. So if you're handicapping the games today and tomorrow based on better coaches, who's going to make better adjustments, not as significant as it would be in other situations.
And Max, what are you thinking here with Dan Kelly's comment as far as the coaching mattering less so in round 2s, in round 4, and also any other aspects that you bring into your handicapping as far as just the one-day turnaround?
Yeah, I just look for the teams that are able to come back from deficits. I think that's where I look for some value. I think that's where you can see some evidence of good halftime adjustment coaching. A team like Washington, Mike Hopkins, he does a good job of that. There's a bunch of other coaches that do that, and I don't really cap the coaches, but I do cap how teams deal with being down by 10 to 15 points at halftime and what the ATS stats of them coming back are.
All right, guys, and please smash the like button if you're liking the content, and if you could share on Facebook, retweet on Twitter. Love the guys retweeting on Twitter when we go live. That really does help us out, getting the word out on getting people hitting here into the show. Helps us out with sponsorship as well. Sponsored by Heritage Sportsbook. You can always view Heritage on the SBR odds screen. Their numbers are always posted. And guys, let's get back to the NCAA games here. We got Baylor Gonzaga up next, the 9-1 matchup. A little tidbit here. All of the 9 seeds beat the 8 seeds in round 1. 8-5-1, 8-5-2, the rotation number, 7-10 Eastern tip here. 147.5 being the total. The Zags laying 14, bought up from 12.5. So some Gonzaga money pushing this line up. Baylor is a solid team though, Max. Coming right back at you. Would you look to be laying the 14 with Gonzaga?
Yeah, I think that I'm naturally inclined to do so just because I have a sports infatuation with Brandon Clark and the way that he plays basketball, jumps and protects the rim. I think that this Gonzaga team is not going to take any minutes off. I think that they are going to run and gun and run the score up because they want to
Ian, I think we had some technical difficulties there. Are you still live, Ian?
I am live. Yeah, that is just a Max that left us there.
Okay, didn't know if it was countrywide there in Canada. How's the weather up there, man? Is it still cold?
It's getting better. Actually, we're getting into the it's going to be, I think, almost 60 degrees Fahrenheit later this week for a day or two, and then it's going to go back into the low 50s again. But it's getting there. We're getting closer to some warmer weather. Eventually, it's going to get here.
All right, good stuff, man. Hopefully soon. We got the opening day, not too many days away. So I know Toronto Blue Jays open up the roof there. Hopefully you can get to a game. But we got Baylor Gonzaga 147.5, Gonzaga -14. How would you look to bet the Zags today?
Yeah, I'm not really in a rush to bet against Gonzaga here. The problem is the line's gone up. I mean, we're talking about Gonzaga now is about a 14-point favorite in this game, up from 12.5. Gonzaga is going to obviously be facing a zone. They can do okay against a zone as far as I'm concerned here. They faced it earlier this season against the Washington Huskies and the aforementioned Mike Hopkins. 81 points they scored. They shot the ball very well. They can basically win and do well and perform well playing any style you want to. They're a very multifaceted basketball team. Just tremendous win. Well, it's obviously Fairleigh Dickinson, but they did what you wanted them to do. They came out, just blitzed them in the first half and rolled to an easy win. Hachimura was fantastic, 21 points. Zach Norvell Jr., if he can give them 13 points and 6 rebounds like he did in that game, that's definitely a good sign. Another Canadian that we're very proud of here in this country, Brandon Clark, 12 points, 8 rebounds for the Zags in the win against Fairleigh Dickinson. And for Baylor, I saw too much dependence on Makai Mason and Mario Kegler, and that's been that way a lot for them. I think Scott Drew, as much as I've been a detractor of him in the past here, he's done a really good job with this program. I just think they might be running out of steam, and they might be up against it here. I just don't know if they're ready for everything that Gonzaga is going to be able to throw at them. Gonzaga is going to probably be able to neutralize Makai Mason a little bit. We are talking about a Zags team that's given up, 38.6% shooting, 30.8% from 3-point range. That's the key. Mason likes to hit from the perimeter. Gonzaga 30.8% shooting with their perimeter defense. That's pretty good. And if Makai is neutralized on the perimeter, could be tough sledding for Baylor.
Yeah, you're right. And it could be tough sledding for them on the offensive end. And also keep in mind, Baylor runs a lot of zones. So I don't know how many possessions there are going to be in this game as far as getting near 150 as far as a total. I'm kind of leaning under. Max, if you're back with us, man, you want to finish off your analysis and anything on the total?
No, I don't have anything on the total, but I'm just going to say that Gonzaga on a neutral court, they've been highly efficient in the first half. They have a plus 12 advantage versus Baylor in scoring margin differential. And I think that when you can shoot 50% from the field and you're getting almost 60 possessions and 60 shot attempts a game, I think that's always going to be beneficial. And the way that they can roll waves of offensive players at you, whether it be the front court or their back court depth, is just a spot where I have to get Gonzaga full game and first half.
Okay, and hitting the chat box a little bit, we got Tomar saying, I don't think Gonzaga is good enough defensively to shut them down. I think Baylor sets up their defense. We got Jewish Sex Learner. Welcome in, man. Whoever likes Baylor, I recommend taking first half. Is that something, I know you like betting the halves, Max. Is that something you would recommend as well?
Well, I'm looking at Gonzaga first half, so ordinarily I'd be looking the other way, but I just think that the way that this Gonzaga team can start and score in bunches in a short amount of time, and they score off their defense. They make a play on defense and then they score. So that's something that Baylor doesn't do well. They're going to have to bust out the zone against Gonzaga early if they want to slow them down. I don't think that they'll do that till the second half.
All right. Tomar saying Baylor is nothing special, but the zone slows games down. I'm not laying 14 here. Nasty N8 saying I'm teasing all favorites down. Teaser. He's teasing some games there. Good luck with that, Nasty 8. Alex saying Max liked it so much he had to cut the vid so he can go take a rip. Is that really what happened, Max?
No, I had a power surge.
No rips of sativa, huh?
Not the sativa. I prefer the indica on a winning day.
All right, let's move down the card. 7:45 Eastern tip here. All Big Ten matchup. Minnesota versus Michigan State. Are you guys privy on all your NCAA tournament seeding knowledge? I always thought that the same conference couldn't play each other until the Sweet 16. We're in the round 32, and we got Minnesota versus Michigan State. Max, do you know what's going on here? I didn't think this was allowed, so to speak.
No, I do not.
Ian, do you have anything on that?
I never knew of a rule where you couldn't play a team inside your own conference prior to the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8 or the Final Four. I always thought it was just whatever the committee came up with from a seeding perspective. If you're in that same group or that same quadrant with that team and you both advance and you're from the same conference and you end up playing each other, so be it. I never thought there was a specific rule against something like that.
Okay, I could be wrong. I could have sworn maybe about 5-6 years ago when the Big East was on their roll with all those teams that was a rule. Anybody in the chat box that is privy on that kind of info, feel free to throw that out. Love to read it out and just self-learning. But 7:45 Eastern tip here: Minnesota, Michigan, 142 being the total. Michigan State, Sparty laying 10 or 10.5 depending where you're shopping. Looks like Bookmaker is the lone wolf at 10 right now, low watermark, where everybody else is at 10.5. So if you're liking Sparty, Bookmaker's the place to bet them. We got tens here, doubles. Ian, how you looking to bet Minnesota versus Michigan State?
This is the easiest game for me to pass on. It's a very difficult game. There's nothing I've seen during the regular season that indicates to me that Minnesota can hang with Michigan State. If Michigan State brings their A game, Michigan State absolutely throttled Minnesota 79-55 when they met in February. But Michigan State's form these last few games, even against Bradley, not the kind of form I'm comfortable laying double digits with. They didn't look right. They looked a little sloppy. Turnovers were an issue against Bradley. They didn't look locked in. I thought their shooting was a little off in that game from a couple of guys. I thought defensively they were very lackadaisical at times. They're going to have to up it up from an intensity perspective and urgency perspective if they're going to cover a number like this. But my concern is if they do, it's going to be too much for Minnesota to handle. And let's be honest, I worry about betting on teams coming off the kind of shooting performance Minnesota had against Louisville. 86-76, 29-58. What do they do? More than double their average three-pointers made per game against Louisville. I mean, this team was not known for being a perimeter shooting team, and they couldn't miss from deep in that game for Minnesota Golden Gophers, especially Gabe Kalsher. I mean, 24, but he was absolutely lethal from the perimeter. It's hard to duplicate that kind of shooting effort. When you have that kind of shooting performance, you usually fall flat the next game. If I had any more, I guess, faith in Michigan State than I do right now, I'd lean to the Spartans. If I had to put out a lean, I'd say Spartans, but not a game I'm going to be involved in.
Okay, easy pass for Ian. Dan Kelly chiming in. There is no rule like that. You can play the same conference in the first round. Interesting. Okay. Also, Keith Sadler saying they say it's changed. The rule has changed because of the expanded tournament. It's too hard to separate conference rivals. I could see that happening as well. I'm pretty sure there was a rule about 5-6 years ago, but maybe not. And we also have Dan Kelly saying there is a rule that you can't play on your home court until the Final Four. Either way, Max, let's get after this one. We got the Golden Gophers. We got Sparty, 10.5, 142 the total. What's your view on it?
Yeah, I'm looking towards the under in this game. I'm obviously going to credit Ian with pointing out that Minnesota shot lights out. That's just unlike Minnesota. And I think that Tom Izzo is going to have his guys ready to run and gun today. And when you have a floor general like Cassius Winston, it's always a little safer to be betting on him. I think that they're going to be able to neutralize the guard play, especially Amir Coffey and Gabe Koshler for Minnesota. I don't think they'll be able to shoot threes like they did. I do worry about the depth for Michigan State and who they can bring off the bench if they get into foul trouble outside of Cassius Winston, who has a suitable backup. I just think that the way that Michigan State is capable of playing in the matchup and the way that they play against Minnesota already this year, I just see this team being able to rebound again. I'd be more looking at MSU first half and full game. That's just because obviously with live play you can get a lot of value in if they don't come out storming. But I think that they're going to be able to. I think that they're going to be able to play very good perimeter defense. I think that Kenny Goins and Xavier Tillman are going to be strong and big enough to contain Daniel Oturu and Jordan Murphy, and that's where I see the most consistent offensive attack that Minnesota has. If they can get Jordan Murphy and Daniel Oturu the ball down low, these are guys with size and physicality to get through. But in this matchup with Kenny Goins, Xavier Tillman, and even Nick Ward, if he is able to stay out of foul trouble, I think Michigan State's going to be able to eliminate Minnesota and send Richard Pitino back to his father and his family so he can go walk his dog and walk with his kids.
We got Tomar saying Bradley game is very slow. That's when Michigan State struggles. Michigan State defense should be able to control tempo here. Also, Chris Cargo with a good stat. 4 of Gophers' starting five played 35 plus minutes on Thursday. So the 1 day turnaround, that could not be good for Minnesota. Guys, almost over 300 people watching right now. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much for your support. Welcome in. Let us know what you want to talk about on the chat box. We do have best bets, the official best bets coming up here at the end. 2 games left on the card to hit. And please don't be a lurker. We got 75 likes, over 300 people watching. If you could smash the like button, that would help us out. We got Villanova Purdue up next. 8:40 Eastern tip here, Ian. 138 the total, -3.5. That's the Boilermakers laying in this one. Another Big Ten team here. Big Tens look good. Are you looking to back the Boilermakers here?
Yeah, the Big Ten has got one Big Ten team has lost, and that was Wisconsin yesterday against Red Hot Oregon. Other than that, yeah, Big Ten has done very well in this tournament. Will this Big Ten team do just as well here, Purdue? No, I'm not so sure. Purdue, give them credit. Defensively, they swarmed Old Dominion in their first game, 61-48. Old Dominion had wide open looks multiple times in the last 4 or 5 minutes to try to get back in that game, and they could not hit a single wide open look against Purdue. If they do, that's a different kind of game down the stretch, and Purdue's maybe, biting their fingernails a little bit. So even though the scoreboard reads 61-48, there was chances for Old Dominion to make that game a hell of a lot closer than the final score indicates. Purdue's offense didn't really look in sync that game against Old Dominion. Old Dominion pretty solid defensively, but I've got concerns about Carson Edwards. He scored 26 points. A lot of those were at the free throw line, though. He was only 7 of 23 from the field. That wonky back of his looks like it's causing him some stress and causing him some duress, causing him some issues. I don't think he's looked all that fleet of foot. I don't think that speed quotient that he has been as noticeable with this back, not quite at 100%, and his shooting was not good. That's a concern going up against Villanova here in this game as far as I'm concerned, because Carson Edwards is so much what makes Purdue go. I mean, Matt Harms had 13 points, and the rest of the starting five had 2, 5, and 6 points from Eifert Klein and Eric Hunter Jr. That's not good from the supporting cast. And if Edwards is hampered even a little bit by that back, that's an issue, I think, against a much better team in Villanova than you faced against Old Dominion. Certainly a better offensive team and a more well-rounded team. Villanova 61-57. See, their final score against St. Mary's was closer than it would indicate. They had control, made a couple mistakes, turnovers late, made that game much closer than it really was against St. Mary's. Jay Wright head-to-head against Matt Painter, not bad. 2-0 straight up, 2-0 against the spread. Previous head-to-head meetings between Villanova and Purdue. I like Villanova here. Give me them plus points. Give me Jay Wright here. You give me points with Jay Wright in an NCAA tournament game. I know this is not vintage Villanova, quite on the level of the national championship team Villanova, but Pascal's still there, a good player. Booth, some good veterans. I think Gillespie's playing his best ball of the season right now for Villanova. I don't trust Purdue offensively, laying 3.5 against a very quality team that's playing very close to home as well. This game in Hartford, Connecticut. So Villanova should have a decent following there. I think Villanova can actually get this win in outright fashion. This is usually the time of the tournament we wave bye-bye to Matt Painter and Purdue. Wouldn't surprise me to see them bow out here tonight.
Good breakdown, Ian. We also got Tomar validating what you're saying. Villanova's weakness is they lack size, but Purdue's front line doesn't score. I'm on Villanova. Edwards hasn't been consistent. Max, any closing thoughts here on Villanova versus Purdue?
Yeah, I'm on Villanova full game. I'm on Villanova full game, and I'm Villanova money line. Fact is, Villanova's going to be able to play three-point defense. They're going to be able to guard Carson Edwards. They're going to be able to get to the line probably 20 times. This is a team that makes their free throws. This is a team that gets on the offensive glass, and they're not going to turn the ball over too much. I think that obviously they become a little bit too three-point reliant at times, but if you're making 10 a game, that's worth it for me. So if Villanova's hitting shots and getting the ball in the middle and getting it out to the perimeter to open three-point looks, I think that Villanova is going to show us vintage Villanova of the past.
All right, and Dan Kelly saying Purdue is a perfect example of what I posted in this chat earlier. First round coaches, second round players. Purdue is the play, so going against it. But
but I'm not convinced. But I'm not convinced Purdue has the players. That's the thing. They have a player, Edwards. That guy's got a bad back. All right, he shot terribly the other day, 7 of 23. I mean, that's not. He shoots 7 of 23 again today. They're not winning the basketball game. Not against Villanova. plain and simple. So you can talk all you want about players. I like Edwards. I don't know if I'd take anyone else, to be honest with you, on this Purdue team. I'm being dead serious. They need him to be much better. I think that sore back is bothering him a bit. We'll see if he's better here today, but I got to see it before I believe it.
Good point, Ian. And Tomar saying Purdue's second best scorer is Klein, and all he does is shoot threes. So something to be said there as well. All right, guys, last game up, then we got best bets. The nightcap tonight, 9:40 Eastern. Auburn versus Kansas, SEC Big 12 on TBS, -2 or -2.5. You can get both numbers depending where you're shopping. So a good one to shop around and have multiple sports books. Check out SBR odds for the most live up to dates. We got 147.5 being the total. Auburn Tigers, we're talking coaching, we're talking players. That's all into this handicap, guys. Ian, we'll come right back at you, man. Auburn, Kansas, how you looking to bet War Eagles versus the Jayhawks?
Oh yeah, this is a very interesting game. Great game to end the night. To me, I was looking to fade Kansas in this tournament. Obviously, I got my teeth kicked in doing that the other day with Northeastern. They were out of that game very, very easily and very early. And give Kansas credit. It was a great basketball game, tremendous. And defensively, that was what I was impressed with. Northeastern's a good offense. So to see Kansas completely stifle them, completely shut them down, it was very impressive to see. Dotson's been great, certainly. Dedrick Lawson as well for this Kansas team, no question. They were fantastic in that game. Here's the thing. Here's an interesting angle that sometimes I think works in the second round. Doesn't always, but here's an angle that has me leaning toward Auburn in this game. You've got Kansas off the near perfect performance against Northeastern. They couldn't have played better. Really couldn't have shot the ball better either. 34 of 61, 87-53, blowout win, great defensively. Whereas Auburn did everything they could to lose against New Mexico State down the stretch. They coughed and they wheezed and they hacked their way to a victory against New Mexico State. They turned the ball over, stupid fouls, dumb decisions, just everything Auburn could have done to try to lose that game, they did. Fortunately, they survived 78-77 against a very game New Mexico State team. Sometimes when you got the team that cruised in the first game, they have a hard time playing to that level the second game, play that perfect game. Sometimes you bounce a little bit the next game, whereas with Auburn, you got the team that, just barely survived. Maybe that gets their focus a little bit ratcheted up for this game for the Tigers, knowing, hey, we got to be stronger with the basketball late in the game. We can't be turning it over. We can't be fouling a three-point shooter like they did in that game against New Mexico State late. So some adjustments to be made. It's one of those situations where you got a team that played awesome, a team that really did everything they could to lose and really almost gagged it away at the end. I try to make a case for the team that didn't play their best game the last time out. So that would have me leaning Auburn. I mean, Kansas, give them credit. Northeastern was a great game for them. Auburn has a much different level of athletes, different level of shooters. Kansas is okay, three-point defense, not great. And we know Auburn loves hitting the threes. I think Auburn's got a chance in this game. The problem is I would have liked Pick'em or better. I don't know if I want to lay 2 on a neutral court with Auburn, but it's certainly the way I'd lean in this game.
Good breakdown, Ian. We got Chris saying, keep chucking War Eagle. They are, man. They're going to throw up threes no matter what. Tony saying he's like an Auburn. Allison like an Auburn. Yeah, Alex, am always excited to talk this game. It's the nightcap and it's Auburn. It's like the perfect mix here. We got Tomar saying Auburn was flat against in their first game. They should be strong here. Kansas can't shoot, and they still shoot threes all game. I think the value is with Auburn. Also, Chris saying Self better than Pearl. Would you say the coaching advantage, if that is a factor, is with Kansas, or would you say it's with Auburn, Ian?
It's definitely, I would give an edge to Self, but it's not like Pearl's not terrible. Like Pearl's obviously, very, very energetic. Very emotional sometimes on the sideline. It's fun to watch him actually on the sideline. He gets into these games, no question about that. I don't think he's terrible coach at all. And Self's a really good coach. Yeah, probably give him an edge, Drew, but it's not like Self has been in recent years marching this team to the Final Four. He's had some tough, first round, second round, Sweet 16 exits here in the tournament the last few years. So it's not a situation where, Bruce Pearl can't overcome Bill Self. No way. Bruce Pearl can't help his team pull off this victory. No way. A slight edge to Self, but you're not betting this game based on that kind of edge.
Okay, Chris saying Self hides his illegal barbecues better than Pearl does. Yeah, it's tough not to hide them better than Pearl does. Pearl doesn't hide them very well at all. But we got Max. What's your view here on the War Eagles and Rock Jock Jayhawk?
Yeah, quite simply, this Auburn team's played really well on a neutral court as well as Kansas, but defense wins in these types of games, and I think that Auburn, with their aggressive mentality against ball handlers, turning over teams 16 times a game on average on a neutral court with 8.5 steals a game, I think that you're going to see a better Bryce Brown, a better Jared Harper. Jared Harper is going to be more disciplined on defense and not foul out. Bryce Brown is not going to foul guys on 3-point shots when they could win the game. The mental mistakes are not going to happen again. Auburn is going to realize they're going up against a blue blood, and they're going to use the front court depth of Austin Wiley, who is back, Anthony Malcolmore, and Horace Spencer to contain David McCormick and Dedrick Lawson. I'm worried about McCormick having a big game versus this Auburn team, but I think that if Auburn is hitting threes like we know they're going to hoist them up, I think that the little guys are going to lead them to victory because Devontae Dotson, he has a semi-sprained ankle. We saw what happened yesterday with him in the game. We saw how he was moving, but he was forcing himself back into the game. I think that's going to come up, and I think that when you got the experience and the know-how of Auburn's backcourt, it's hard not to get behind them. So I'm going to ride with Auburn today.
Like an Auburn. Okay, across the board pretty much. Guys, in the chat, let us know what you're betting and why. Love to read it out. If you got good marketing, add that in as well. We got best bets coming up. Just a couple minutes left in the show. Nolly knows, welcome in. Red Girl in the house. Late starts, but welcome in. Want to know what you guys are betting. Just ran through the whole card as well, so feel free to watch the replay. Please do. And also, please smash the like button. Armin, welcome in. El Duque. Welcome in, bud. Let's go to best bets, guys. And feel free to throw in any closing thoughts before your best bets on just betting the tournament in general, today's bets, whatever. But Ian Cameron joins us on Saturdays. Welcome anytime. Ian at Babano on Twitter. Great follow there on Twitter. Good handicapper in multiple sports, college basketball being one of them. Ian, what do you got for best bets and any closing thoughts on your mind, man?
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to be with you and Max, Drew, on Saturdays. I mean, I wish I could do more than just Saturdays for the rest of the tournament, but Saturdays is the one day that's got that open time slot. There's lots of stuff going on personally for me with work, all that stuff. So, but I enjoy being here Saturdays with you guys. We'll do that for the rest of the tournament. Always fun breaking it down with you. Best bet for me on this Saturday card is going to be back to Villanova Purdue. Villanova plus 3.5 against Purdue. I think they can win this game outright. I think Edwards is not 100%. He showed that against Old Dominion with his shooting stroke. Nobody else stepped up, from an offensive perspective. Villanova can play good defense. Villanova doesn't mind playing slow-paced basketball. They showed it against St. Mary's. They could play that slower-paced game, play it well, and thrive in it. And I think they're going to do so today. And let's be honest, this is usually the time of the tournament where we see Purdue stub their toe and end up getting sent packing home. I think tonight could be that night. And even if Purdue wins this game, I don't see it coming by any sort of margin. We'll go with Villanova plus 3.5 against Purdue for my best bet.
Villanova plus 3.5. You can get that at Heritage right now. There are threes out there, but there's prominent 3.5s as well. So Heritage being one of them. Ian Cameron's best bet on Villanova plus 3.5. Max at Maxwell Smart 420 on Twitter, my partner in crime every day here on SBR Madness, 9:30 a.m. and 4 o'clock p.m. Monday through Friday, and Saturdays and Sundays at 10 a.m. throughout the tournament. Max, what do you got for best bets and any closing thoughts on betting today's card, man?
No, I'm just saying if you guys are watching games and you guys see a bet going the wrong way, I give the same advice every day. Don't be afraid to make a live play and get your money back. Don't allow these bookies to fill their pockets with our hard-earned dollars so that they can spend on their wives so that they can go get their hair done in nail salons at places that charge too much. But for my best bet, I wanted Texas State over. I liked it at 148. It's gone all the way up to 154.5. I see a number at Pinnacle that I like. I'm going to take under 154.5. Texas State FIU. I think that Texas State is not going to try and play at a high-paced, high-scoring game with FIU. There won't be any kind of familiarity, but the fact is, this is a Texas State team that only gives up 65 points a game. They're able to hit some free throws where FIU is a little more inconsistent, but they get there a lot. I think that fouling is going to be a key issue in this game. I look for the more solid defensive team in Texas State to be able to avoid putting FIU on the line and being able to contain Brian Bitter Jr. And I'm just looking for a rebound performance from Nigel Pearson. I don't see him going 0 for 10 from the field. I don't see Texas State scoring 46 points, but I just cannot see this number at it is. I think that I'm going to be trying to middle this line. So my strongest total and play right now would be the under 154.5 in this Texas State FIU game.
Okay, under 154.5. That's available at Pinnacle. There's a lot of opinion on this total, though, guys. So it's as low as 152 at some sports books. So make sure to shop around. Max did get the high water mark at 154.5. That's at Pinnacle on the FIU under. I do want to get on Auburn -2. But every time I bet Auburn, they lose. So I'm just telling myself not to. But I do like the War Eagles tonight. My best bet, I'm going on Kentucky -5 over Wofford. I just think their athleticism, their defense, getting hands and faces. I don't think Wofford's going to be able to shoot like they were able to in round one. Also, Kentucky's come on of late. You know, they're a young team. John Calipari has these players playing a lot better than in the beginning of the season. I think they're still very underrated at this point in the season. And covering a 5 with a team that can hit free throws down the stretch, I like it. Kentucky -5 for my play of the day. It's pretty much 5 across the board, so you should be able to shop around and find it. But for Maxwell Smart, Ian Cameron, I am Drew Martin. Guys, please tune in tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. Smash the like button on your way out. We really appreciate you guys joining in the chat box, watching almost 400 people. It is an honor. Thanks for tuning in with us. We'll see you tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern time. Best of luck with your bets today.
Good luck, everybody.